People think silence means peace, but there's a kind of silence that screams so loud it leaves bruises. That was the kind I lived in. My name is Riley Shaw. I was the quiet girl. The weird one. The one who always wore long sleeves, even in summer. People thought I was shy, or maybe religious, or just bad at fashion. But really, I was just trying to hide the evidence. It wasn't dramatic. No crying. No blood. Just pressure. A need to feel something other than helpless. A need to turn invisible pain into something I could touch. At school, no one noticed. No one ever does not when you're the girl who sits alone at lunch or gets called emo by cheerleaders who wear pink on Wednesdays. The worst part wasn't the insults. It was the half-laughter that followed. The maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but it's still funny kind of mockery. That's what they were good at. Hey, Riley did Hot Topic throw up on you. Wow, you smile now. What's the occasion, funeral? You're like a ghost. Do you even talk? And I'd just nod, shrug, fade. Because what do you say when your words don't matter to anyone? I had one friend, kind of, Mara. She wasn't popular, but she wasn't invisible either. She was smart, artsy, the kind of person who could be mean but usually chose not to be. We used to sit together in 9th grade, but by junior year, she'd moved up the ladder. Started hanging out with the yearbook kids, the theater kids, the ones with real conversations. We still said hey sometimes, but mostly she looked past me. Until the day Mr. Halverson, our art teacher, announced a project. Visual autobiography, he said. One canvas. No words. Just what your life looks like. Most people groaned. Some rolled their eyes. But something in me sparked. Because I knew exactly what mine would look like. That night, I pulled out my sketch pad. Drew the first line, a girl curled up inside a cracked rib cage, then threads stitched across her arms. Tiny bandages shaped like stars. Mouth sewn shut with silver wire. I stayed up until 3 a.m. And when I looked at it the next morning, I felt seen. By myself, at least. I started working on the real piece during studio period. Charcoal and acrylic. Muted colors. Red only in the places that needed to hurt. No one paid much attention. Until Mara wandered by my table on day 3. She stopped mid-sentence. Stared. Is that you? I didn't answer. It's kind of haunting. Still, I said nothing. Are those scars? My hand instinctively covered the painted arm. She didn't push, but she didn't walk away either. That night, she messaged me. Your painting, it's really honest. I didn't know you felt like that. I almost didn't reply. But something about her tone felt real. So I typed, no one ever asked. She didn't answer right away. But the next day, she sat next to me in art. Didn't speak much, just drew. But it was the first time in years I didn't feel alone at that table. And then the rumor started. I heard it in the bathroom. Did you see Riley's project super dark, like therapy level? I bet she's just trying to be edgy. Mara's only talking to her because she feels bad. By lunch, someone had snapped a picture of my half-finished canvas, posted it online with the caption, "Someone call 13 reasons why they lost a character." Hundreds of likes, laugh reacts. I stared at the post for a long time, then locked myself in the art supply closet during last period. No one came looking. The art supply closet smelled like old glue and turpentine. Dust in the air, silence in my chest. I sat on the cold tile floor with my knees pulled to my chest. I wasn't crying. I hadn't cried in months. I'd forgotten how. On my phone, the post was still going. More comments, more laughing emojis. A few heart reacts from people I didn't even know. A few that I did, including someone who used to sit behind me in algebra. He wrote, "This is why some kids shouldn't be in regular school. Drama machines." That one stung, more than the rest. Because it wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was dismissive. Like I was just a nuisance. An extra. Background noise in everyone else's life. I don't remember how long I stayed in that closet. Long enough for the bell to ring. Long enough for the halls to clear. And then a knock. Riley. It was Mr. Halverson, our art teacher. His voice wasn't loud. It was the kind of voice that didn't need to be. "It's just me. I saw the post." Silence. "I want you to know. The painting matters. You matter." I didn't move. I left the door open. "Come back when you're ready." Footsteps, fading. Then just me again. And the echo of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Being believed. I didn't go home that night right away. I walked the long way. Past the bookstore. Past the empty skate park. Down the alley where I used to press my fingers into the brick wall until they hurt just to feel something solid. When I got home, Mom was on the phone. Dad was at work. Dinner was cold. None of them had seen the post. Or if they did, they didn't ask. They never did. The next day I braced for it. The looks, the whispers. And they came. But something else came too. Mara. She walked right up to me in the hallway, full crowd around us, and handed me something. A folded sheet of sketch paper. On the front, a drawing of two girls sitting on a park bench. One of them had bandages on her wrists. The other was holding her hand. No words, just understanding. You don't have to be alone in this, she said quietly. Even if the rest of the school is trash. I wanted to hug her. Instead, I nodded, because that's all I could do without breaking open. In art class, Mr. Halverson pulled me aside. We're submitting your piece to the district showcase. Why? Because it speaks, it screams, and maybe it's time someone listened. I didn't fight him. I didn't argue, because part of me wanted it out there, wanted them all to see it. Not the version they laughed at online, the real one. Up close, where they'd have to look at it. That night, I took off my long sleeves. For the first time at home, I stared at the mirror, counted the pale scars, the faded ones, the ones still fresh. Each one a moment, a memory, a sentence I couldn't say out loud. Then I said it, whispered. I was here, even when you didn't see me. And for once, the mirror didn't feel like an enemy. The showcase was held in the East Building gym. They draped black curtains over the basketball hoops and rolled in tall white panels like walls in a museum. The fluorescent lights were swapped for warm spotlights. Everything looked softer, more delicate. But I didn't feel delicate. I felt like I was walking naked into a storm. My painting hung near the entrance, center row. Big, bold, unflinching. No name tag per my request. But people knew. They always know when something hits too close to the bone. Some paused in front of it, tilted their heads. Some whispered. Some didn't look at all. Just walked past it quickly like it might reach out and touch them if they stared too long. Mara stayed near me. Not hovering, just close. Enough that I didn't float off into the walls again. Then came something unexpected. A girl I barely knew. Taylor Morris Jr. theater kid, always had glitter in her hair, walked up and stood in front of the painting for a long time, then turned to me. Eyes red. That's yours, isn't it? I nodded slowly. She bit her lip, then pulled up the sleeve of her sweater. 3 pale straight lines, faint, fading, still visible. I thought I was the only one she whispered. I couldn't speak, but she didn't need me to. She just nodded and walked away. That was the moment I realized something. This painting, it wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who never said anything. Later that afternoon, I heard something strange. The popular kids were quiet. Kenzie, captain of the volleyball team, stood in front of my piece, arms folded. She didn't say anything, but her eyes weren't mocking. They were haunted. And beside her, Logan, one of the boys who'd posted the meme, just looked down, shoved his hands in his pockets. Then something even stranger. An apology, not in person. An anonymous note, folded and tucked under my painting, scrawled in messy ink. I'm sorry I laughed. I didn't know it was real. I didn't know it was you. I didn't forgive them. Not yet. But for the first time, I felt something shift. The painting didn't just expose me. It exposed them. Their cruelty, their neglect, their silence. That night, Mr. Halverson emailed me a photo. The piece under spotlight. He'd captioned it. Some truths don't need a voice, just a canvas. But I still had a voice. And for the first time, I wanted to try using it. The next day, I met Mara outside the library. Do you think we could start something? I asked. Like what? A wall. A place for others to draw. Paint. Say what they can't say out loud. Like a confessional. Like a revolution. She smiled. You lead. I'll follow. And just like that, the girl in the long sleeves became the girl who picked up a brush and handed it to someone else. It started with one piece of cardboard, taped to the back corner of the art room next to the old supply shelf no one used. We wrote 3 words at the top in black marker. Draw what hurts. No rules, no names, no grades, just space. And a box of pens. We didn't ask for permission. We didn't make announcements. We just waited. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, someone drew a single cracked heart in the corner. Day 3, a pair of hands reaching up from what looked like water. Day 4, a blacked-out mouth. By the end of the first week, there were more than 30 drawings. Some rough, some beautiful, all raw. A girl drew an eye with pills for tears. A boy drew himself as a tree with people carving insults into his bark. Someone else just painted the word enough, over and over. We named it The Wall of Quiet. Words spread fast, faster than we expected. Students started coming during free period, sneaking in during lunch. Even kids who had never taken art. They didn't always draw. Some just stood there, reading, nodding, crying quietly into hoodie sleeves. And then someone posted a photo of the wall on Instagram. Caption: "We're not alone. We were just quiet about it. It got 12K likes." Hundreds of shares. Then the media picked it up. A local news station asked to feature it. That's when the school stepped in. First came the email. "Out of respect for student privacy, we are pausing the Wall of Quiet initiative until further notice." Then the paper signs were taken down, the markers locked away, the cardboard rolled up and moved to storage. Mr. Halverson looked like he wanted to scream. "They're scared of what it means." "What does it mean?" I asked. "It means they failed to see you. All of you. For years. And now it's written in ink." We fought back. Started a petition. Over 400 students signed in 2 days. Mara designed posters that read, "Silence isn't safety. The wall speaks for us. We won't go back to invisible." We posted them all over campus. They ripped most of them down. But they couldn't stop the whispers. The movement had already begun. The next Monday, something happened that no one expected. A teacher drew on the wall. Mr. Beckett, Social Studies, known for his silence. He pinned a note that said, "When I was 16, I thought about ending it too. No one noticed then, I notice now." His words shook us more than any drawing. Because they meant this wasn't just about students. This was about all of us. And suddenly, the principal couldn't ignore it anymore. We were called in for a conversation. Mara and I sat in front of a polished desk under a photo of an eagle and the words, "Achievement through discipline." We appreciate the message the principal began, but it's a sensitive topic. We have to protect our students. From what I asked. From knowing they're not alone. He paused. "You've made your point, but we have to consider liability. If someone gets hurt, people already are," Mara cut in. "They're just doing it silently, in bathroom stalls, in bedrooms, on their arms." That shut him up. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. So we did the only thing we knew how to do. We kept drawing. And now the wall wasn't cardboard. It was lockers, notebooks, backs of desks, inside jacket linings. It was everywhere. Because pain will always find a canvas. And we gave it permission. By the end of the month, the wall wasn't just a place. It was a pulse. A quiet rhythm that ran through the school. Everywhere you looked, something had changed. People talked softer, lingered longer in hallways, looked each other in the eyes more and away less. And then came the drawing, the one that turned everything. It appeared overnight. Pasted to the side of locker 212. A girl curled into a ball, hands over her head, surrounded by insults written in jagged lettering. "Freak, crybaby, attention whore." And in the corner, scrawled in red ink, a name. Sarah W. Sarah Weston. Cheer captain. Popular, flawless. And one of the first people who ever made me feel like dirt. People gathered around the locker. Whispers. Laughter soft and sharp. But this time, not with her. At her. By third period, she was in the bathroom stall crying. I heard it. Everyone did. And still, no one comforted her. Not even the girl she used to lead. Because now the silence belonged to her. Part of me thought, good. Let her feel it. Let her live one day in the skin she made me wear for years. But another part hesitated. Because watching her break wasn't satisfying. It was familiar. Too familiar. That afternoon I passed her in the courtyard. She sat on the bench where I used to eat lunch alone. Mascara smudged. Phone in her hand. Refreshing. Again and again. Like waiting for the world to say she was forgiven. It didn't. I stopped walking. Something made me turn back. I sat down. Didn't say anything. Just sat. Let the silence rest between us like a splint. After a moment, she spoke. "Was it you?" "No." "Would you tell me if it was?" "Yes." She nodded. Then quietly. "I did say those things." "I know." "I didn't think anyone remembered." "We always remember." Silence again. Then she whispered, "Am I just this now?" I looked at her and saw not the girl who laughed at me, but a girl who had no one sitting with her anymore. "You don't have to be," I said. "But you have to mean it." She blinked, looked away, didn't respond, but she didn't roll her eyes, didn't scoff, didn't pretend she was still queen. The next day, a new drawing went up. Simple, just 2 hands reaching across a line. No names. But everyone knew what it meant. Forgiveness doesn't excuse pain, but it acknowledges it. And that was the start. Some drawings started showing light instead of just darkness. Still cracked, still raw. But there were flowers growing out of the fractures. Because the point of the wall was never revenge. It was reflection. It was release. And sometimes it was redemption. It started with a question, innocent enough, from a junior journalism student named Carmen Lee. She'd seen my artwork, seen the wall, and she wanted to do a piece in the school paper. It's about voice, she said, about speaking through art. You don't have to say anything you don't want to. I hesitated, but then I thought maybe it's time. So I agreed. We met in the library. She asked soft questions. Let me move at my own pace. And when I mentioned that the painting was based on real scars, she paused. Would you ever be okay sharing that? You mean showing them? Only if you want to. So I did. Rolled up my sleeve, fingers trembling. She didn't flinch. She didn't stare. She just nodded. They'll understand more when they see what you've carried. The article ran 2 days later. Front page. Title, What Riley Drew Was Real. The photo wasn't graphic. Just my forearm. Soft light, faint scars, a paintbrush resting across my wrist. The feedback from students was overwhelming. Support. Messages. Even kids I barely knew whispering thank you in the halls. But not everyone was happy. By noon, 3 parents had called the school. By 2 p.m., the article was pulled from the website. By 3:15, I was sitting in the principal's office again. This is not about punishing you, he began. It feels like it. Some parents are worried that you're glorifying self-harm. What? They think you're encouraging it? That showing scars is unsafe? I laughed, the bitter kind. They weren't worried when I was hiding them. They weren't worried when kids mocked me for being silent. But now that I'm visible, now they're scared. He looked uncomfortable. It's a delicate subject, Riley. No, it's a painful subject, and that's why it needs to be seen. He sighed. The superintendent wants you to issue a statement, something that clarifies your position. My position? That you don't condone self-harm. I don't, but I lived it. That's not an endorsement. It's a survival story. By the end of the week, a mandatory assembly was scheduled. Theme, mental health and responsible expression. Translation. A sanitized lecture about coping, delivered by someone who never spent a single second bleeding silently behind a school bathroom stall. I was given a script to read. Safe, approved. 3 pages of hollow comfort. I tore it up. And when the assembly came, I walked onto the stage, heart-pounding scars visible beneath rolled-up sleeves. I took the mic, and I told the truth. You're afraid of what's on my arm. Then be afraid of what happens when no one talks about it. Be afraid of the day you walk into your child's room and find silence where a person used to be. Be afraid of pretending this isn't happening. The room was dead quiet. I'm not asking you to celebrate my pain. I'm asking you to stop punishing me for surviving it. There were teachers crying in the front row. Even the principal didn't stop me. And afterward, the student body stood up, one by one, in silence, and clapped. Not loudly, but with hands pressed together like a heartbeat. Steady, sincere, undeniable. Later that night, I got a message from Carmen. They tried to take your voice. You turned it into thunder. I hadn't touched the journal in years. It was blue, frayed edges, sticker half peeled on the cover that used to say, "Dream big." How ironic. It had been stuffed under the bottom drawer of my desk since 8th grade. Hidden like contraband. A time capsule of pain I thought I'd never open again. But after the assembly, after the stage and the silence and the clapping hands, something told me go back. Not to stay there, but to bring that girl forward. The pages were stiff. Some tear-streaked, some written in frantic pen scratches, and every line pulsed with loneliness. No one notices unless I disappear. I tried to smile today. My face felt wrong. I want to scream. But I know they'd just laugh. I read until my eyes burned. And then I found a page I didn't remember writing. It was short. 4 lines, barely legible. If you're reading this, it means you survived. Please say something. For both of us. That's when I knew what I had to do. The next week in English Lit, we were assigned a personal narrative reading. Most kids picked essays, college admissions letters, safe stuff. I brought my journal. My hand trembled as I held it. Miss Riley asked gently, "You're sure?" I nodded, sat in the front of the class, opened to the page, and began. My voice cracked, paused, but I didn't stop. Because I wasn't reading to impress anyone. I was reading to answer that girl on the page. The room was still. No phones, no yawns, just attention. Maybe for the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. I finished with the 4 lines. If you're reading this, it means you survived. Please say something for both of us. And then I added, I'm saying something now. Silence. Then, the quietest sound of someone crying. I looked up. It was Ryan, tall, athletic, always joking. He wiped his face, embarrassed. Sorry, he whispered. That just hit. After class, 3 people came up to me. One gave me a sticky note that said, I have a journal too. Never thought I'd open it again. Another just hugged me. Didn't say a word. Didn't need to. That night, I reread the whole journal. And instead of shame, I felt grace. Because I wasn't that girl anymore. But I owed her everything. I wrote one final entry. Thank you for writing it down. You gave me a map out. I love you now. I won't bury you again. Then I closed the cover and placed the journal not under the drawer, but on the shelf, next to my sketchbook, next to the wall of quiet photos we'd started collecting. Where it belonged. The podcast was called Voices Between the Bells. Student run, usually lighthearted. Clubs, crushes, football drama. But in the wake of the wall, they wanted to shift. Just for one episode. They asked me to be the guest. I hesitated. Putting my voice on paper felt safe. Painting it into shadows felt powerful. But speaking, letting my story float out into air, I couldn't control. That felt like undressing in the dark and hoping no one turned on the light. Still, I said yes, because fear had followed me for years. And it was time I stopped walking behind it. We recorded in the back of the library. A tiny room with foam walls and a red light that said on air. Mara came with me, sat just out of frame. Like a lighthouse, in case I drifted. The host, Jules, was kind. No pressure, no script. Just questions that felt like open windows. What made you paint that first piece? What do you wish someone had said to you in 8th grade? What do your scars mean to you now? I answered honestly, even when my voice shook, especially then. The episode aired 2 days later. Title, Riley the Girl with the Brush and the Scars. Within hours, it hit 10,000 plays. Students reposted it. Teachers referenced it in class. Someone graffitied, "You matter," even if you shake outside the gym. And then, my mom listened. I didn't know until I came home and found her sitting at the kitchen table, phone in her hand, eyes wet, face unreadable. You never told me, she said quietly. I didn't think you wanted to know. That's not true. You were always busy, tired, distant. I didn't know how to ask, she whispered. Silence. Then I asked the question I'd never dared to say out loud. If I had told you, would you have believed me? She closed her eyes, took a long breath. I don't know, but I wish I could go back and prove that I would. I nodded. My throat tightened. It's okay, I said. I'm still here. She reached across the table and took my hand. For the first time in years, her grip didn't feel like control. It felt like connection. That night, she left a note on my pillow. It said, if I missed your pain, then please let me show up for your healing now. And slowly, I let her. Because sometimes healing doesn't start with a miracle. It starts with one person choosing not to look away, even if they once did. The invitation came in a manila envelope. Plain, unassuming, almost forgettable. But inside was something that made my heart pause. You have been selected to exhibit at the Northern District Youth Arts Showcase. We would love to feature your piece untitled autobiography in Scars. I sat on my bed, staring at the letter. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the realization. They wanted the girl I had buried, the one with the shadows, the cracked mouth, the thread across her arms. And suddenly, I didn't want to send her. Not because she wasn't true, but because I had changed. She deserved her place. She had carried me here. But I wasn't her anymore. At least, not only her. So I called Mr. Halverson. Can I paint a new version? It's your story, he said. Tell the next chapter. I stared at the blank canvas for hours. Not because I didn't know what to paint, but because for once, I wanted to do it gently. I started with the same figure. Same ribs, same posture, same stitched arms. But this time, the stitches glowed faintly like threads of light. Instead of a mouth sewn shut, I painted it open mid-breath, mid-word, mid-becoming. I added color. Soft pinks behind the grays, gold woven into the hair. A shadow beside her, not looming, but leaning in like a friend. And then the final touch, a small smile. Not wide, not perfect, but there. Quiet, earned, unmistakable. I named it, Still Here. The night of the showcase, I wore short sleeves. Mom came. Mara came. So did Carmen and Mr. Beckett and 3 people from the wall who once only knew me through charcoal. People paused at the painting. Some tilted their heads. Others stood still for minutes. And no one laughed. No one turned away. They absorbed her, like they knew her. Because maybe They did. Maybe she was a version of someone they'd once been, or still were. One woman, mid-30s, hand on her daughter's shoulder, said, "She's not broken. She's in repair." And I wanted to hug her. But I just smiled. Because she was right. That night, after everyone left, I stayed behind. Just me, the canvas, and silence that didn't hurt. I whispered, "You can rest now." And in that moment, I didn't feel like a subject of tragedy. I felt like the artist of my own truth. 3 years passed. The school looked the same. Same cracked pavement. Same faded mural in the cafeteria. Same sound of lockers slamming like thunder in the hallways. But I was different. And this time, I walked through the front doors by invitation. Guest mentor in residence, the flyer said. 1 week, art workshops, storytelling sessions. The new art teacher, Ms. Tran, had heard my name from Mr. Halverson before he retired. She reached out asking, "Would you teach our students how to paint their truth?" I said yes without hesitation. Day 1. I stood in front of a room full of strangers. Some with colored hair, some in hoodies too big, some in silence so familiar I almost mistook it for my own reflection. I didn't start with a lecture. I showed them my first painting, untitled Autobiography in Scars. Then I showed them the second, Still Here. The silence that followed was sacred, heavy but healing. And then I asked, "What would yours look like?" They didn't speak much, but their hands moved. Charcoal, acrylic, torn paper, and glue. And as the days passed, the walls filled. Again. Not with despair. With release. A boy drew a bird with bandaged wings. A girl painted a mirror cracked in 7 pieces each with a different face. One student, Elijah, made a collage from shredded test papers and wrote, "I am not my grades." On Thursday, a girl named Hannah approached me. Tiny, barely spoke. She'd been drawing shadows all week, hands reaching mouths, missing hearts shaped like locks. That day, she pulled on my sleeve. "Miss Riley," she whispered. "Yes." "Were you ever sad like me?" I knelt down, met her eyes. "I wasn't just sad," I said. "I was shattered. I was silent. I was small. But I'm still here." She didn't say anything. She just nodded and went back to her easel and painted. A girl holding her own hand. That night, I stood alone in the art room. Looked at all their pieces, some beautiful, some rough, all real. I realized this was the new wall of quiet. But now it spoke boldly, unapologetically. Before I left on Friday, Ms. Tran handed me a box. Inside a small plaque, laser engraved. It read, "In honor of Riley Shaw, who turned silence into story and scars into survival." I cried in the parking lot, not because I was hurting, because I wasn't. And that, more than anything, felt like a miracle. I don't wear long sleeves anymore. Not because I need to prove anything, but because my skin isn't a shame. It's a story. And stories aren't meant to be hidden. Some days I still feel it. The ache. The echoes. But now I know I'm not alone. I never was. I was just waiting for the world to see me. And finally, it did.